Section 8.6, properties of real numbers. Okay, let's just kind of jump right into this and see what we're going to be doing. We're going to be identifying properties of real numbers that justify given statements. Going to be a lot of just kind of like quick examples on this one. Once again, it's going to be more hawks. This is just going to be something you're just going to kind of learn. You're going to get better and better at it as you go along in your mathematical time. Okay, but it is something good to know. Okay, basically the properties of addition and multiplication, all these properties of real numbers, what can we do with them? Okay, what is possible with them? Okay, so commutative here, let's kind of just look over these real quick. Commutative, notice you got a plus b equals b plus b. Basically these right here, it means they're interchangeable. They can go backwards and forth. Okay, they're commutative, they move. Okay, so maybe that's how you could think of them. They can kind of move back and forth. Okay, same way with multiplication, they can move back and forth. B times a is the same as b over a times b is the same as b times a. You see that from these examples below. Okay, so they're interchangeable. Associative, looking at the notes here, something you're going to notice is when you're just adding all the way across, is that when the associative property is you can move that parenthesis wherever you like. Okay, and it's going to create the same thing. And sometimes you may want to do that. You may have two things over here that are different, but two things over here that may be like different variables. And so you're going to want to be able to put them together. Okay, continuing on. You've got the identity. Name of it for addition, it's a plus 0, or 0 plus a equals a. It equals itself. It's identity. Okay, you look in the mirror, that's what it's going to give you. With addition, it's always 0, because think about 1 plus 0 is always going to be 1. So here we got the a times 1 for multiplication. Instead of it being 0, it's going to be 1. Because remember, if we multiply anything by 0, then of course you have to have a, it's going to be 0. So here it's 1. Okay, and the inverse here, a plus negative a. We learned about that just recently. That's saying 10. Basically 10 minus 10 is 0, because if I go over 10 places, then come back, I'm back at 0. Here you're noticing that this is basically a reciprocal. And I'm going to go and write on this just a little bit so you can see it. Notice that this is basically 3 over 1. Okay, so that's 3 over 1 times 1 over 3. Well, if we start just do that and notice that, okay, that's why it reduces to 1, because you're multiplying by the reciprocal, which is always 1. Continuing on, in this table, a, b, and c are real numbers, zero factor law. Okay, once again, a times 0 equals 0 times a. That's what we just learned. And then the distributive property. Distributive property you're going to be using a lot. Okay, that's what this is this is coming in here and multiplying the a to that and the a to that, and this is what you get right here. And you can see it here, 3 times x and 3 times 5 is 3 times x, and 3 times 5 is 3x plus 15. Okay, we'll do a few little examples here, but like I said, overall what's going to happen on this one is we're just going to be just jumping back and forth and looking at things. Okay, we'll just kind of be comparing them to the table. Okay, let's see here just real quick. The number 0 is called the additive identity because when 0 is added to a number, the result is the same. Same with kind of what I just explained. Okay, so let's look up here. State the name of each property being illustrated. Well, first off, let's look at it and realize that we're dealing with addition. Okay, so we're dealing with addition, and we're noticing that if you look here, that no matter what, I can move these around. They're moving around these, they're interchanging these. Okay, so let's look up at the top and see what kind of looks like that. Let's scroll back up here. And look at this. If you look at the commutative, first off we're going to look at the addition. Let's look at this guy right here. Okay, notice that this one right here, the commutative, says if I got a plus b, well, I can also have b plus a. So if I go all the way back down here to the bottom again, okay, notice that that's what that is saying. If I have this plus this, then I can also have this plus that. Notice they're switching. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so they're able to go backwards and forwards with each other. So here, that means commutative. Okay, almost commutative. They can move. They can move back and forth. Okay, here if you notice, once again, we're dealing with addition. Okay, so we've got this addition here. But notice that our parentheses are changing place. Well, whenever we go back up to the top, notice here we have parentheses. that are changing place, but the order is still the same, and even that really doesn't matter because you could do something commutative wise and still move around your parentheses. So if we come down here, it looks like we have the associative property. So let's go ahead and write that in. Associative. Okay, and I guess it'd be proper to go and put property down. Okay, so let's go and just do that. And this is really honestly how the homework's going to go. So if we come in here and look at this, we've got negative 25 times 1 equals negative 25. Well, if we remember, let's go back up and look and notice that whenever anything equals, it makes it look like itself. Okay, well, we're not adding, we're multiplying this one. Well, notice here we've got a times 1 or 1 times a, it still equals a. So if we go in here, we can say, we have the identity property for multiplication. Okay, so we have, let me get my pen out here. We have the identity. Identity literally just means it makes it, nothing changed. Okay, identity property. Okay, I should go put property for multiplication. Okay, well, what we got here? Well, I've got a 3 and I've got a parenthesis here, and then all of a sudden something looks different here. But doesn't it look like, they took this 3 and put it into here. Okay, and then whenever I do 3 times x, I get that, 3 times y, I get that, and add them. Well, let's go back up and look and remember that this right here, and the reason I'm hoping you're kind of seeing that one is this is the distributive property of multiplication over addition. So let's write that down. I'm just going to simplify that. Okay, we're just going to put the distributive property. Distributive prop for multiplication. Well, we're going to put over add there. Very good. Well, look at this. Now I've got a 0 times 14 equals 0. Well, we know that's very true. And if we go back and start looking at our deals, let's see if we can find it anywhere. Well, we've got an inverse here. I do have a 0 here, but notice this is all plus. This doesn't work out because notice here I've got a 1. So let's kind of keep looking. And look at this. We have the 0 factor law. Okay, and there it is. 0 factor law, because look, if I have multiplied anything by 0, that's what I'm going to get. So let's come in here and I will write down we have the 0 factor law. Perfect. Do a couple more examples and then we'll be all good. Okay, let's look at this. Identify the properties of addition and multiplication. Well, let's remember that if you notice here, they're just moving back and forth the parentheses, which means that's going to be associative. Remember, commutative is flip. Associative, we're moving those parentheses. So let's go ahead and write associative in there, and then we'll solve. So I'll put down associative, and then we'll do our math real fast. Okay, so we've got 3 times 2. Remember, we've got to do the parentheses first. So 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so then I get 4 times 6. Well, that's going to be 24. Okay, well, over here on the other side, I get 4 times 3. Okay, that's just going to be a 12. Okay, so let's go and put this here. Look, we'll do a 6, and then we'll do a 12 in here. Well, 12 times 2 is 24. So let's go ahead and do the, how did I do this? I did the 2 times 12, and then we get 24. So notice, that works out perfectly. Well, here, if you'll notice, look, we've got a negative, which I'm glad they're showing it this way. They're showing this as a -1. So I'm going to distribute this -1. Well, when I say the word distribute, that should tell you that I'm using the distributive property, okay, of multiplication over addition. We won't worry about that. But notice whenever I take this negative, it starts changing everything in there, okay? And so this would be our final solution right here, okay? We could not go any less than this, so our final solution is literally going to be -5 minus y, because these aren't like terms, and so that's as far as we can go with it. Alright, and that's how your homework's going to go. We'll do a few Hawks examples.